it'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. All right, thank you. Thank you. First and foremost, once again, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the opportunity to share this transmission with you at this time. It is a great gift that you give to our civilization in allowing us to experience through each of you that many more facets of the multidimensional crystal of creation. We would like to begin this transmission in the following way. We have titled this transmission, The 5 Hybrid Races. But that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about far more than 5. We are going to give you now, at this time, a little bit bigger picture of the path of the evolution on Earth and where it's heading, incorporating the idea of the 5 hybrid races within this overall picture, but beginning sooner and going further, so that you have a better map, a better understanding of what Earth is participating in on a grander scale at this time. Now, before we begin to explain this map, this path, the phases that are involved in what has brought you to this point and what will take you further as a species, we are going to allow briefly, we're going to help facilitate briefly another being to come through for a few moments to give you a list of names. You may not understand what this list is at first. Many of them will sound foreign to you. That's all right. After the list has been delivered, we will go over the list again and explain what each of these names is a reference to. Give us a moment. Anu, Vikwadesh, Adama, Eva, Maz-e, Mazani, Sasani, Shayael, Yayael, Shah, Linaya, Enanika, Anuhet. All right, now that you have this list, let us begin at the beginning and explain what each of these mean. As we have discussed from time to time, the Anu are a race of extraterrestrial beings that came to your world hundreds of thousands of years ago. And without going too much more deeply into the story than what we have already imparted to you, suffice to say, the Anu, or as many of you refer to them in ancient text as the Anunnaki, were responsible for infusing their genetic material into the naturally evolved hominid species on your planet that you often refer to as Homo erectus and various similar types of early human form. And with the infusion of their DNA into Homo erectus, thus created what you now consider yourselves to be as Homo sapien, human. Now, the second word, Vikwadesh, is a reference to this early hominid form, Homo erectus, as you call it. In the ancient tongue, Vikwa means seed. Desh means template. So it is the seed template that was used to create Homo sapien. The initial manifestation in the ancient tongue, Adama, again translated in some of your stories as the idea of Adam. The idea then, as related metaphorically in some of your early literature, your religious literature, your early scrolls and texts, the idea of the creation of the female form by the utilization of the early male form of Adama to create the female representation of the Eva, or Eva, or Eve. The idea being that this represents, no offense, gentlemen, but the Eva represents the first hybridization upgrade of the human form. I know that many of the females in the audience are pleased to hear this. Therefore, with the Adama and the Eva, you then had the basic idea of the male and female human forms. It does not mean that there were not female forms in the Vikwadesh, in the Homo erectus. Just that the way in which the female Homo sapien was created by the Anu utilized the initial template of the Adama to make sure that it would be, as you say in your language, a hybridization upgrade. Now, once that existed, once the human forms existed in what you recognize as your present male and female forms, and the human race began to flourish and replicate and spread, remember that we have told you the story of another parallel Earth reality that destroyed their world, and that the humans on that world became mutated into the form you call the Greys. And because they had mutated in such a way, hybridized themselves in such a way to be able to survive on their destroyed version of Earth, they were no longer able to reproduce. And they knew that they would die out if they did not seek out somehow, somewhere, a viable source of still existing human DNA. They used their advanced technology, as we have told you before, to tunnel into various parallel reality versions of Earth, including yours, to find viable human DNA, to infuse with themselves to create hybrid civilizations that would allow their culture to continue and not die out. But the idea of the early Grey, in a sense, because it was something that was created that changed them into a form that could adapt to their dying world, in a sense, is the first hybrid race. The Greys in the ancient tongue are the Maz-eh. The Maz-eh are what came into your parallel reality and began the hybridization agenda. So the Maz-eh, the Greys, formed the first hybrid race. The first hybridization level or phase that followed the Maz-eh, or Grey beings, is what we call the Mazani. These are what many people in these encounters have recognized as the tall Greys. So they are the next stage of hybridization from the Greys that began to incorporate human DNA and allowed them to begin to change to something a little bit closer to resembling the idea of a hybrid that could continue their species. But it still was not sufficient for a number of reasons. But they were the second hybrid race, and in a sense, phase one of the hybridization agenda. After that came our civilization, the Sathani. So we are the third hybrid race, We are representative of a 50-50 balance between the Greys, the Maze, and the humans on your world and other worlds like yours. We are physically and representationally halfway between the Greys and what you consider yourselves to be as Homo sapien. We are here, as you can see, to share information with you because we are family, we are genetically connected. You are in many ways our ancestors, and we are your descendants, and we will get to that point a little bit more deeply in a moment. The next phase is what was called the Shah Yael. This is something that is a little bit more human in appearance, but still containing various aspects of what you consider to be hybrid beings. They still have much larger eyes than you. They are relatively slender like us, but a little bit more toward the human form that you are familiar with. Now, the Shah Yael, the fourth hybrid race, act in many ways as guides for the fifth hybrid race, the Yael, who are much more human-like, and that's why they are going to be the first hybrid species of the 5 hybrid races that would have open contact with your civilization. They look more or less human. They may still exhibit a few of the ideas of hybrid traits that would make them a little bit different than what you consider a normal or natural human to look like. But nevertheless, the fourth hybrid race, the Shah Yael, will act in a sense as guides and organizers to help with the agenda of acclimatization for the Yael to be able to interact with your world when open contact begins. So they are working very closely together that way. What follows the Yael is what has been termed the Shah Lanaya, which in the ancient tongue is the first ones. The first ones being what you typically refer to as the hybrid children that live on the ships that will ultimately be returned to Earth to live among you and begin the process of allowing Earth to blend into and evolve into the sixth hybrid race eventually. This is what we refer to as the next word in the list, the Inani Ka. Now, we have initially told you that our ancient word for earth is Inani, which basically means the ancestors, but more specifically, it was in its ancient form more Nadea, Inanika, which means the place of the ancient mothers. Again, that's a more literal translation, which has now been condensed over time simply into Ananika, which is the ancestor spirits. But in this case, spirit, not only representing the idea by the word ka of what you consider normal spirit to be, but also the idea of essence. And in this case, a literal reference to DNA. So it is the idea of the ancestor DNA and that which will allow there to be a blending, a harmonization, and a continuing of evolution for Earth to become the sixth hybrid race. Now, we have previously also told you that there would be ultimately a seventh hybrid race that would be a blending of all the other 6. This will be a new type of being that will represent a very different way of existing in physical reality, that will exhibit many traits of spirits and other dimensions, will have an interesting expression of power and passion and peace, that will explore and unify many different star systems, many different galaxies in time. So Earth is forming the last foundational component for the 7th hybrid race, which on the list is referred to as Het, or Anu Het, which means they are the conclusion of the cycle, the grand cycle that was begun by the Anunnaki and ends with the Anu Het, and brings forth a new species, as we said, of power, passion, and peace. Now, This all goes toward the understanding of the real transformation that's taking place on your planet. This entire cycle is really what the transformation is all about. This upgrade, this uplift, this ascension into new forms, new expressions of great power and passion and peace and benefit and creativity and unconditional love that can ignite a new wave of experience and a new series of civilizations within your star system, other star systems, and the galaxy and other galaxies. This is the beginning of a new cycle with the Anuhet, a new form of the Anunnaki for a different purpose of expanding creation in a new and unique way, in a much broader way, in a much more expanded way. And this then brings us to be capable this day of explaining to you that in terms of our gifts of sharing information with you, this is the true gift that we bring you. Because by being able to share with you all of these different principles and help you understand the nature and structure of existence in the form that we have expressed it as a type of instruction manual and toolkit that allows you to more easily apply these principles in your physical reality and make the kinds of positive and powerful changes that you wish to make in your lives. The real gift is that because we noticed that your planet was heading down the same path as the alternate Earth that destroyed themselves and turned into the Greys, the Maz-E, the real gift is that in giving you this information, which the other world did not have, the other Earth did not have, with this information, you get to skip all the intervening phases. The Maz-E, the Mazani, the Sasani version of yourselves, the Shayayel, the Yayayel, the Shalanaya. You get to go straight from the idea of being human into being Enanika, the uplifted version of yourselves, skipping over literally thousands of years of necessary evolution. That's the gift that we're actually giving to you by sharing this information with you. To highly accelerate your ability to become the sixth hybrid race without going through what that alternate version of Earth went through in creating or needing to create all those different phases to bring themselves back into balance, back into center. You can skip all of that by applying the information we share with you. That is our gift to you. So, this is our explanation at this time of where you fit into this overall map, this overall picture, and that you are now accelerating for those who wish to align with it, well on your way to becoming Inanika, and accelerating toward the idea of open contact with the Shalanaya, the children, the hybrid children that have been created, that are waiting to join your world, that are now acclimatizing to the understanding of living on Earth, as you are acclimatizing to the idea of sharing the world with other beings from the stars so that you yourselves can also create the world you prefer, the version of Earth you prefer, and also expand yourself to the stars and become a spacefaring race as well. We thank you for allowing us to share this updated information with you this day of your time. And in return for the gift that you are giving to us, I ask you now, in what further way may we be of service to you? Please begin with your sharings, comments, and questions if you wish.